Hello. Are we live? I'm hoping we're live now. Fingers crossed. I can see Jack Shepherd first in the chat. Evening, Jack. And FPL Bricky is here too. Hello, Bricky. Oi, oi. Can you guys just confirm you can hear me and see me okay? Because... Oh, Andy Martin in the chat. Yes. FPL Tacticians. Mark Daniels as well. Evening, Mark. Can you see me, guys? I'm going to crack a beer. Happy FPL 22-23 day one. Hope you've all had nice days. Just while people are pouring in their tens, hope you've all had nice days. Hello, everyone. Audio a tad robot. It can hear and see. Okay, cool. I don't know what to do, but maybe someone will be able to help me with that. But yeah, evening Golden Gold. It's either Sam or Tom. Evening Darren as well. Yep, I'm here. So yeah, just while people are coming in, I've been playing football tonight, and my team were 4-0 up at half time. Play 7 aside. 4-0 up at half time. We ended up losing. I think it was about 12-7. Painful one. But it was a good game. But I'm tired. Oi, oi, Flapjack. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, it's been a good day. I've been swimming in the sea. If you don't already know, I work for a games company as well, and we've come up with a couple of good games ideas, so it's been good. Evening, Sean. Nice to see you. Evening, Ian. Oh, great. There's so many people in here. It's lovely. It might be that it's picking up. I think it is that it's picking up my mic twice. I'm going to try something. Thanks for that. I'm going to try something. This is the screen within screens. This is like classic Chatman stuff. So what I'm going to do, I don't know anything about this stuff. If I try that now, let me just, I'm a bit of an amateur at this. If you're watching catch up, just skip this bit because you're not going to want to hear it. I will get onto FPL in a minute. I promise. Need to mute one of the audio. How does that sound, Sam or Tom, whichever one of you that is? Is that sounding better now? Is the audio better? That's better. Thanks, Mark. Okay, perfect. I've learned something for next time. Each time, one little improvement, I feel like, and we'll be winning. That's good stuff. So, nailed it. Thanks. So, yeah, enough chitter chatter. It's been a nice day. I hope your days have been okay, or good even. And all I've done, I've literally just logged into the FPL website because I didn't want you to see my password. But apart from that, even Tom can see it. I haven't done it, so I'm going to go there right now and literally I logged in. It took me straight to this screen, and we'll go from there. So yeah, I haven't seen any of this. I haven't checked anything. Luke, the tweet all I saw was you said, is Jakob Moder the best 4.5 midfielder? That's the only tweet I've seen all day. So since the game's launched and even before that, I haven't seen anything. I don't know all the prices apart from the ones that have been revealed. But basically on tonight's stream, I'm thinking I'm going to have I'll talk through sort of what my process is. So if you're not aware, what I'm doing this season, I'm doing a bit of an experiment. I'm going to stream every second of my FPL season. Hopefully it gives me a bit of ability to play a bit punchier and be accountable on my time, but also give a bit of insight into how I play FPL and hopefully have fun and have a chat. So I know that Jakob Moder is a 4.5 mid now, which is exciting, but he's probably injured for ages, so not too exciting. But I'm going to take a look. First of all, my ID, the most important thing of all. I don't know if it already does my ID or not. I don't think it gives me an ID till after I selected a squad. So who knows? Right, so I'm going to make a first draft to begin with. So obviously, seeing the prices, I don't know what people's reactions have been, but I'm just going to give mine. So basically, in terms of what I think the best options are, I'm just going to spread that a little bit that way. Let's go like this. That'll do. So basically, I've got 3 players. I like the new design, by the way. Nice fadey colours. That looks good. I've got 3 players who, for me, are absolutely 100%. As long as they're fit and there's signs they're going to play, I just think the prices for these 3 players is ridiculous. So those 3 players are Trent, Cancelo, and Perisic. So that's not going to shock many people, but basically Trent obviously underpriced, 7.5 bargain, brilliant asset. Cancelo likewise. Perisic, there's been lots of stats knocking about. So I did actually see this morning Baker posted something about Perisic, and my feeling, basically I spent all of yesterday tweeting about Perisic, and I think he's quality, and I just think he's so underrated. He's going to get goals and assists. So I'm just, in all my mucking about this evening, I'm going to keep those three in because I don't see any world in which I don't have those three in my starting team. Richard Ward, Man City may sign Cancelo, so be wary. I mean, Cucurella, lol. Yeah, I thought you did. So basically, those three are straight up locks. N Brown says the same. I'm going to do a few different drafts and just play about a bit. I want to see what my idea is as well. It's really sad, isn't it? But I want to get there. So for my first one, I think as well, I've been thinking on the last stream, if you caught that, basically I was saying, that was just on some of the price reveals, I was saying between Robertson, Trent, Diaz and Salah, I think those are the four Liverpool players that I'm between. There's still a chance that I go without Salah and go for Robertson, Trent and the other one. But basically, for now, I'm going to put Salah in because I think obviously he's an amazing pick and I'm quite happy to perma-captain him. There's a few other players, so I'm just going to have a quick... Can anyone just pop in the chat if any of the rules are different? Because I don't know about that, but are any of the rules different? Or... You're mental, Dave. Template destroyer. Thanks, mate. What about what is there, like unlimited transfers at the World Cup, that sort of stuff? If there's any like basic rule change, that would be handy. So I'm going to put together a very base team. So I think the way I want to do it is I really like Callum Wilson. I know their fixtures are a bit mixed to begin with. Planet FPL had a great pod, by the way, on fixtures earlier. I've listened to quite a bit of that. So same rules. And have we got an unlimited amount of transfers at the World Cup? We have unlimited World Cup transfers. So in effect, that is a third wild card that we have to play with. I thought they'd do that. So I guess to zoom out in that case, I reckon that the way I usually try and do it is I try and create a team that is going to be... I only really look at the fixtures for about the first 5 or 6. That's all I'm really concerned about. And if my team is still looking solid after 5 or 6 weeks, I can just keep knocking that wild card backwards. But I think if I make a team for the first 5 weeks, then I can happily use my wild card after 2 or 3 if I want to. Hopefully it's solid enough for 5 or 6, and then I can just sort of keep knocking the wild card down the line. But basically, I'm quite happy to use it quite early. There was a couple of forwards that stood out to me as well priced. Let me see who they were. So I quite like the Nottingham Forest guy, Awoniyi, at 6 million, but... I'm a little bit reluctant on those guys, on new players in general. Actually, is what I meant to say there. Vardy, I like at his price, but he's a bit expensive. And I think for this first draft, in my head, I'd like to see what I can get if I go with Salah as my only premium. Son would be my second choice as my second premium, not Haaland, which I talked about last time out. I don't think I'm going with Haaland. I just think he could get eased in. I want to see how City set up with him in there. What other forward was it? Let's have a little look. This is literally, it's all off the cuff, and I'm just, as you can probably tell, it was Ivan Toney. So I really like Ivan Toney. I think he's a good, boring, solid pick, and straight off the bat, that's what I'm interested in. Let's see what we've got in terms of cheap forwards, 4.5s. Okay, so Greenwood is fairly clearly the best option there. Another thing I do early doors is just really boring, but like just team selected by, just see who other people are going for, and just to see if there's anyone that I'm missing at those points. So defenders, for the first draft, I'm going to chuck in Robertson because I'm fairly confident I'm going to go for him. I usually do start big at the back, and I think this season seems like a no-brainer for big at the back, to be honest. There's some tempting 4.5s like Tomiyasu. I'm not that excited by the Chelsea guys at the moment. I feel like I'm imagining that Reece James and Chilwell are going to be in a lot of teams, but I want to see where they set up with a 4 or a 5 at the back. I think if it's a 4 at the back, I just think there's going to be other more appealing options. How much is Matip? Let's have a look. 6. What about the Man City defenders? What have we got there? Okay, I'm going to pop in Ruben Dias for now. I definitely, if Chelsea play 4 at the back, I think Ruben Dias is their most nailed defender. I think he's a really good option. I know he's boring, but I'm a boring guy, so that's all good. Goalies, let's stick in a placeholder of Raya. I think he's a good looking 4.5, and let's see what 4 million goalies we've got. Oh, they're not 4 million. Forster, Darlow, Begovic, Kelleher, Stefan, Ward, maybe. Probably a second choicer there. Again, I'm just going to do sort by percentage and see if there's a sort of a consensus pick. At the moment as well, it's basically good players playing mostly. So I'm quite happy to do that. So, oh, interesting. Well, I'm going to go for Ward because he's good. So that leaves 26.5 for what would essentially be 2 starting spots. So if I go, can I manage a 5.5? So I like Gordon. He's a good price, I think, at 5.5. I'll go into this in more detail in a bit. I got loads of money. That's sort of, I guess that's the way the season's going to be. And 4.5, I'll go for Andreas Pereira on the basis that he may well join Fulham. And they've probably underpriced him on that basis. So that means Richard Ward's saying Brentford and Nottingham goalkeeper pair well. Okay, I'll have a look at that in a bit. Stick Clayson in, says Andy Martin, you won't have 3 leads. You never know, mate. Once I've got Ayling and Bamford, that only leaves space for one more. So it's going to be tricky beyond that. Rafinha, 7 million. Oh my goodness. Honestly, FPL. Shocking. So Rafinha, again, I'm just going to placehold in Bukayo Saka, just as I think there's so many good value. Foden's another one I'm very interested in at 8 million. But that sort of figure there, what as a first draft, I'll do a few different drafts actually just to have a play. And then I probably won't do it again for another week or two because you sort of want to see what transfers happen. But 1.5 million in the bank there means I'm quite tempted by Ederson as a goalkeeping option because, again, it's sort of like if I could move Diaz out and get Ederson as my keeper, then that feels pretty safe. I'm going to start with that. Enter my squad. Ooh. So I've got a thing about team name, right? I always used to my team name was A, B, C, D, E, F, C, which is now a well-established thing. I swear I invented it. Because basically it was 14-15 season. It was my team name for quite a few years and I was really impressed with myself because I invented it, right? And then I got into the top 10 of FPL that season, during the season. And I promise you that from the season after onwards, people had it. And then I saw that Chris Smalling has it as his team name. And then I changed it to something else for a bit because I felt like I don't want to have the same team name as Chris Smalling. And then my team started going downhill for the last couple of seasons, not the one just gone, but the 2 before that. And I got a bit superstitious. And I changed it back last season to A, B, C, D, E, F, C. And sure enough, I came back and I had another good finish. So I'm sticking with A, B, C, D, F, C. I talked about the last thing. I really like Brighton, but Southampton are ultimately my club if I have to pick one. So here we go. What's my ID? How do you find out? Game week history. Oh, it's a good one. It's the one they wanted. 425796. That's good, isn't it? Okay, that's me for this season. 425796. Right. So I'm going to have a little play. I'll probably be on only for maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. I'd be interested as well in a minute, once I've had a little go, to hear what your teams are looking like and your controversial opinions. I know that Andy, you're going to have some outlandish things to say about all sorts of things, like saying I won't have 3 leads. I've already got 2 right there at the moment. But yeah, let me do a little go. So I'm thinking I am tempted by Mendy, and Brown says tempted by Mendy. I am very tempted by Mendy. I think he's a great option at 5. In terms of goalkeepers, to be honest, I'm not overly fussed. Jealous of your ID, yeah, mate. I mean, 425796, I think it was. I've already remembered it because it's so easy to remember. So if I went for Ederson in goal, I mean, another thing that I'm quite interested in, if I went, this is getting a little bit controversial. If I went for Son and a little bit of a... What could I do there? So if I went for Son and Diaz from Liverpool, the good thing about the 8 million mids, I feel like there's so many places to escape to if things go wrong. Then I could sort of go for a solid 4 at the back there. And then I've got, again, it's basically a really good 4-4-2 with Anthony Gordon as a first sub. I've got Son as a captaincy option, who I'm very happy to back. I don't want him game week 2. But again, if you think about, in fact, just looking at those first 6 fixtures, out of those first 6, he's a great captaincy option, 4 out of 6. And then game weeks 2 and 5 are not... Let me have a little look here. Are not so appealing. So let's see what we've got. If I wanted to go with Son, then I could go... You've got a good fixture there, really, for Man City or Liverpool. Am I happy to captain Trent is, I guess, a big question. Historically, Trent performs so well. And then in game week 5, Liverpool... I rate Newcastle quite highly this season. I think they're going to do really well. Again, Man City. It was probably a Man City asset that I'd be wanting to get in to rotate there. Or I go Cancelo. But again, am I genuinely happy to do that? I'm not sure. Oops. So I wonder what we've got in terms of 4.0 defenders as well. You guys have probably already done all this searching and being like, finding the bargains, right? Team selected by hasn't done very well. People make terrible selections. So we got Brandon Williams. No, none of those are particularly interesting, are they? He played a little bit. Totti at Wolves. Jones, Roden. No. If Eric Bailly unlikely gets a transfer, maybe him. Patterson could be interesting if he plays. Quite fancy that. Nico Williams, if he gets a loan move, will be a good option. Nat Phillips, if he goes to Bournemouth. I feel like they've missed a few there. I think there's going to be a 4 million option before the end of the season. Didn't know that Panzo played for Forest. Interesting. He could be a good option too. So that's Mosquera. If you're listening on the audio, which doesn't exist. So let's see what we're saying. So we've got a few comments. So I'm have a look. So Darren Auto Reclose, are you concerned about if you need to quickly upgrade your strikers? I mean, no, is the honest answer to that. I think if I'm going without Haaland, so I'm just going to think out loud because I think that's most interesting, most helpful. So basically, I think if you're making the choice to go without Son, Haaland, Salah, or those sorts of players, I think you have to mentally resolve in your mind, you're not going without those players because they're bad players. They're going to do well during the season, but you're going without them because you think that spread of funds is going to do better elsewhere. So am I worried? No, because the whole thing of FPL, once you just get into that thing of like, in a war where people say the best way you can do this is to know that you're already dead. I sort of think that's a bit like what it's like going without Salah and going without Son and going without, you're already dead, right? Those players are going to do well at some point. You might get on the wrong side of it. You might get on the right side of it. If you get on the right side of those calls a lot, then you're, happy days. But equally, you can get on the wrong side of it. My personal way of playing is I would rather say, right, if I say like Salah, for instance, I'm happy to captain every game, then by my logic would be, I'm going to get punished sometimes, but actually that spread of funds over a number of weeks will do me well. So that's my basic philosophy. Probably just one premium, and I think it probably will be Salah. Having looked at those Tottenham fixtures and how they rotate with City, I think I'd need to go with Son and Haaland. So it probably will be Salah. Jack Shepherd, I think Kulu can cover Son somewhat being a crucial word there, for 4 million less, in a similar way that Diaz can cover Salah. Yes. I mean, I think that Diaz cannot cover Salah and Kulu cannot cover Son, I think you say the same, Jack. But I think that probably Salah feels like a safer perma-captain pick to me, and also probably the better perma-captain pick. And I think Liverpool have got really lovely fixtures, haven't they? I mean, Fulham away, Crystal Palace home, Bournemouth home. I'd even be happy. He scored a hat-trick at Man United last season. I'd be very happy to go with that. Those first 7 fixtures, I'd be happy to captain Salah, and I think that is enough for me to put Salah in. So I'm going to do that because I think Salah's pretty much a lock in my team given that. And that then leaves me with the decision of Robertson versus Diaz. I'll sit on that one and decide nearer the time, but at the moment I would edge towards Robertson. If you look at his historical points, so last season 186. I mean, 186 points for a 7 million midfielder is absolutely outstanding. A 7 million defender, sorry. 186 for a 7 million midfielder, an 8 million, 9 million midfielder is outstanding. For a 7 million defender, it's brilliant. So a lot will depend on what other options are available. But I'm pretty sure, I think those 4 and Edison in goal are all really, really good picks. I want in on that Man City defence. My thinking is, if it's good, which obviously they are, go in on it. Like, don't hedge your bets. You know, having Cancelo, he's going to be at 70% ownership, 80% ownership amongst really good managers. I think that pretty much if you've just got Cancelo, you may as well think, well, if Man City keep a clean sheet, you're probably not really going to benefit very much at all. So if you think Man City defence is going to do well, pick another Man City defender. Ditto with Liverpool. If you think Liverpool defence is going to do well, I think go for 2 or even 3. Like, it's a good differential. Say if we put Diaz in there as well, I could stick a 5 million in that slot, go for 5 there, 3 there with it's a bit weak. Oh no, it's 3 strong ones there in fact. That's like this, for instance, I think is really interesting because I've then got 3 City defence representation. And when you look at those first City fixtures, could they keep a clean sheet in? I would back them in those games. Those home games look good for clean sheets. I would say they're pretty good for 3 out of 5 clean sheets there. Why not just back it and say, look, if they get 3 out of 5, I do well. If they get 4 out of 5 or more, I'm going to have a flying start. So I'm actually going to start with that as my first draft in defence. And then I can have a little play. So Knight and Brown, good that you've subbed. Thanks for that. If you want to subscribe, that's great. Join me on the journey. I'll be here probably every week or so. And do give the stream a like as well. So let's go back to the questions just to catch up. Yeah, Kulu I like as a pick, just to say. Sorry that Andy, you only got 20,000. Did you get the number 20,000? Did you actually get 20000, Andy? Because that would be epic. Nico Williams could go to Forest, Darren. Yeah, this is the problem, I think. I mean, I don't want to criticise them too much, but they put all these players in at 4 million. Any player that could viably be a starter like a Rodon, a Nico Williams, in my opinion, they should be 4.5 because what we're going to end up with is a 4.0 playing defender who, if you want one, is just going to be in tons and tons of teams. So it's a shame, but it's also sort of a gift. So hard to fit Son in. It is. I think he's one of those players where it's 12 million. He's going to almost certainly do well for 12 million. I don't think he's ever going to be a bad pick. So I'll do a draft in a minute with some super premiums. Andy, the quote isn't from Platoon. It is part of my very full life. And part of my very full life was not when I was at war, Darren. No, it was when I was watching Band of Brothers. And I learnt so much from that. Chilwell is a must. I actually disagree with that, Richard. I feel like the Chelsea defence is awesome, but I am slightly concerned that A, they dropped off very badly at the end of last season, B, they've lost some really important defenders, and C, they could go to a flat back 4, in which case we don't know how that's going to impact Chilwell and James. Reece James is a player who I just cannot time at all. As soon as I buy him, he stops scoring points. I've just had such bad luck with him. I did great with him in Sky, bizarrely, but in FPL, can't do it. So I'm not as keen on the Chelsea defence. Unless we get a really strong indication they're going for a 3-4-3 type formation. In that case, Reece James would be like grabbing this slot. And at that point, I might then say, right, I'll go for Chilwell and James in those 2 slots and then move Diaz into my midfield. I quite fancy. Yeah, Andy's saying, I always back a City clean. I'm surprised when they do concede. I feel exactly the same. Their quality defence. Do you know, I mean, people that play Sky might know this, definitely some people, but basically Man City defence, I went all in on my Sky team for last season. And if Man City had kept 1 clean sheet in any of their last 3 games, I would be £45,000 richer right now. it's just painful to say it out loud. But I was really confident in Man City last season as well, and it's freakish for them not to keep a clean sheet every 3 games. On average, they're clean sheet every other game. Them and Liverpool, I think, by far the best teams, best defences. I think you want 3 of them, and I think they're a great team. So, but having said that, I could easily go these 2 to the Chelsea boys. That would free me up $1 million. So that would be, and then I'd have to make a sacrifice somewhere, but I could do that. Darren's saying pretty much what I'm on. Double Chelsea wingbacks, Diaz and Salah. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, it does feel too easy to me. I feel like it's much more fun for it to be harder. Interested, like the striker slots, I think are very challenging. So for me, it's like, right, I think the real value is in defence, and that we should prioritise getting the best defenders that we can. That's just my opinion. And then pick your premium accordingly. And then it's sort of beyond that, I think it's then spreading about a bit. The strikers are the ones that are tricky. Like Callum Wilson, I love as a player. I think he's brilliant. And obviously Newcastle flying. He's got, I guess there's 2 different ways of framing it. So you could say he's got 3 out of the first 4 really good fixtures there. Nottingham Forest, Brighton, it's decent, it's not amazing. Nottingham Forest, Brighton and Wolves. But then also he has got 2 hard in the first 5. But if you think, okay, my plan would be I can wildcard early if I need to, but I want to try and hold on to it if I can, as long as possible. And actually, if I could get past like game week 5, then again he's got a great run of games. I just think he's on pens. Newcastle are improving team. I think that Callum Wilson is a really, really good pick out of those forwards. Lee Bicker's saying, could Perisic be competing with Sessegnon and Reguilon quite a bit? Maybe Conte will use his experience more for the Champions League. I've actually tweeted about this a little bit, so you can have a look on my timeline at Simple Goal. But Perisic is 33, so he's getting on a bit, but he played 35 games last season for Inter Milan out of their 38 league games, and he got 8 goals and I think it was 8 assists or more. And I think, again, Baker, FPL, great account if you don't follow, he basically said something like he would have got 197 points, and I, without knowing that, I said I really, really expect that. I really think Perisic is on for an 180 point season, and I think for the price that he is, 5.5, I think he's an absolute gift. If he was a 5.5 midfielder, I would still be saying I think he's an absolute gift, and that says a lot because Spurs defence was really good under Conte. And yeah, 8 goals, 8 assists. If a player comes into a club that's got 8 goals, 8 assists, even if it's not Nottingham Forest midfielder for 5.5, comes in from the Italian league with 8 goals, 8 assists, we're all being like, oh, this 5.5 million midfielder is an absolute bargain. He's a defender. He's going to get at least 10 clean sheets, I would suggest. Richardson would have got over 200 points last season. Exactly. I think I think he's possibly the biggest bargain of the lot, and there's quite a few. So I think Perisic is, for me, he's a must pick. I don't say that lightly. I think those 3 that I put in first, Trent, Cancelo, Perisic, are must picks. It could bite you. He is going to rest sometimes. He is getting older, but I don't know. I think Conte wants to win the league. He's an absolute winner. He will push them really, really hard. And he is so far ahead, Perisic, of Sessegnon and Reguilon. One of them will probably go. I think someone in the chat said, Jack said Reguilon will be sold, but one of them will go. And I think he's brilliant. Jack's saying Perisic will start 75% of games and get 30 in the other. I think that's it. You've got to take it on the chin. And 75% of starts is going to get him a lot of points. I think FPL's changed a bit in recent years. From it used to always be like, are they nailed? I only want nailed players. I think it's changed now. It's it's okay to have a player who subs on for a 1-pointer every 4 games. If he's scoring 10, 6, 2, 1, what's that? 10, 6, 2, 1. So it's late. 19 every 4 games. That's a good points per game as far as I'm concerned for 5.5, and he probably will do better than that in my opinion. Anthony Chung saying, I think I prefer Doherty over Perisic. I think Doherty at 5 million could be really good. He was injured at the back end of last season. If he gets back and gets in that team, then he could be a good pick. What have we got at right back? So Emerson's obviously played quite a bit. Doherty, again, I know this isn't a very scientific way to do it. And also Spurs really picked up under Conte, and this includes the Nuno points. That right back slot there, last season, 169 points. That includes games under Nuno where they weren't very good. It includes periods where Emerson was doing absolute rubbish. Like, that just shows what that slot's worth. Again, if we look at that left wing back slot, this isn't scientific, obviously, but again, 104 plus 56, you're looking at 160 points there last season under a Nuno, partly a Nuno team and a team that was bedding in. Again, I think it just shows how much we can expect from that wing back slot. There is questions over minutes, but those wing back slots at Spurs, think of Victor Moses at Chelsea. Victor Moses is an average player. He's not a great footballer. He got so many returns under Conte and he got so many clean sheets. I think Jack saying Doherty won't be first choice. I don't really know, personally speaking. They're obviously looking at Spence maybe as an option. I think I like Perisic. I can't express how much I think Perisic is underrated. When you look at him playing for Croatia, what he's achieved at Inter, I know he's older, but he is a top draw player. He could, in my opinion, he could play for Man City or Liverpool and would fit in just nice. And that says a lot about his qualities. Just to come back, Robert Niven saying, what about Kane? Personally, Kane, so Son last season 258, Kane 192. Son was just the more prolific returner, and I think the way Spurs were playing in the second half of last season, I would prefer to rejig and go Son over Kane. So Kane, and also I really do believe that Kane's a slow starter. I think when Kane gets injured, he always comes back slowly. He generally starts the season slowly. I think that's fine. That's just, I think that is how he is. There's the no goals in August. I'm not superstitious, but I think generally I'm not going to go there. And it's actually one I'd suggest others don't go there as well. Son, I'd be happy to. Son's a strong starter usually. Gary Rees, I know it's too early. Would you consider Wilson as a captaincy pick for game week 1? I am. Let's have a look. So Nottingham Forest at home, yeah. I mean, you'd think that St James will be rocking. And one thing about Nottingham Forest, I think they're doing really, really good transfer business. So they've lost quite a lot of important players, but I think I don't know much about the players, but the people who I trust on Twitter are saying how good the signings they're making are. And Steve Cooper's a really astute manager. I think Forest will do the best out of the promoted teams. I think they'll surprise a few people. I don't rate Scott Parker as manager at all. Marco Silva, we know, is a bit hot and cold. I think Steve Cooper, so far in his short managerial career, reminds me of Graham Potter in terms of he's a smart coach. He's improved players like Jack Colback, who are basically fairly average. He's turned them into decent, solid players. He gets the best out of players. I think Forest could do well. So I think on that basis, they could get turned over 4-0. Obviously. But on that basis, I think I would be slightly wary of going for Wilson game week 1, because game week 1, you've got other strong options like Liverpool at Fulham. I think that's good, obviously. Spurs at home to Southampton, that would probably be my number 1 pick. If I had Son, I think he's looking like the best captaincy pick. But yeah, you could go for a Wilson. You could go for a Vardy if you've got him. I think Man United are a watching brief for me. I'm not really considering their players. I would be between Liverpool. I'd be Spurs first choice, Liverpool next, and then I think I'd go for Newcastle as my third choice if I was picking there. So I think Wilson's a nice one. I think it's very differential. Like, just to say, there's also that thing of, people talk about, with players like Salah, it's like, you got to own them, you got to have them, because if you haven't got them captain and they go off, like, you're stuffed. Like, that is a really dull way to play FPL. It's also totally untrue. Like, last season, Bruno Fernandes, game week 1, I remember I was at a wedding and I came out, as I was walking out of the ceremony, I didn't really know anyone there. As I came out of the ceremony, the guys in front of me were like, oh, Bruno scored a hat-trick. And I was gutted because I didn't have Bruno, and I'd done that thing where I'd spread the funds around again. I had Salah, I didn't have Bruno. And it was like, oh, that was painful. But my other players between them made it up. Like, Bruno flopped over the next few weeks. I just think there's no player you need. And I think, I just wouldn't be fearful about putting the armband on someone else other than Salah if you fancy it. Let's see what else we've got in the chat. Is Spence good enough to step up to the Premier League and start straight away over Doherty? So full transparency, I've only seen Jed Spence play a few times. I know he's very highly rated. I think that if they buy him, I don't think he's going to play. I think that would be a spot they rotate a lot more. And I think for me, he's more of a Sessegnon type level, where it's like he's shown masses of returns in the Championship, but it's a big step up. and I think that they would do him bit by bit. I think there's a question mark whether they might buy another right back as well. I don't know anything about that, but yeah. Interesting that Jack is saying if you look at Kane versus Son since Conte came in, I believe Kane is on par, if not ahead. I would be shocked if that's the case. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but my perception is that that Son has been the better pick under Conte. I could be wrong. Certainly towards the back end of the season he was, and I think that they found something that works there. Son or Haaland to own as a second premium. I think looking at what I just looked at a second before, I would say personally, I would go Son and Haaland or Salah because of the way that captaincy pans out. I think you either want a Spurs and City as your two premiums and put the money into that and the captaincy switch over, or you go for Salah. That's where I'm at in my head right now. And I'm not really that keen on Haaland straight off the bat. And I could be wrong on that, but it's just not a risk I want to take. I don't want to put money into a player that I think could be benched early doors. Differential captain game week 1 is a Chelsea forward, but no one will go there. I'm not going there either. Chelsea at Everton. Everton are rubbish, but they're a different beast at home. They're much better at home. I mean, actually, do you know what? Like, talking about forwards, let's talk about forwards because we have been talking about it a bit. Let's go through. So, Kane, like I say, slow start, I don't really fancy. I'm not going to use one of my Liverpool slots on one of their attackers to begin with. Ronaldo's probably going or isn't very motivated. Mikel Antonio. He's not got a bad set of fixtures, the 2 to 4, but he has got City 1, Tottenham 5, Chelsea 6. Again, he's another one who tends to start seasons really well and then fade. So for that 2 to 4 run, he could be a really, really nice option. That Man City game, it shouldn't put me off, right? Because if you're in the middle of a season and you own Antonio, him having Man City, you'd probably just find a place for him on the bench. And like, you could do that. You could buy him and put him on the bench. I think I'm not going to go there. I mean, that's a really disappointing points total of 140, considering the foundation he had to start with. I started with him last season. He did great. I think he's a viable pick, and I think he'll be widely overlooked, but I'm personally not going to go there. I think Tony's a good pick. I think I'll probably go with him. Vardy, I think, is a really good option too. A couple of tricky fixtures there as well, though, 2 and 4, and then it's decent again. I'm not going to go there, I don't think. Ollie Watkins, I think, will be somewhat popular. I saw someone in the chat further up mention about Watkins. That was you, Darren. And yeah, I'm not a huge Ollie Watkins fan. So he's a good player. I really rate him as a player, but as a fantasy asset, he's got 11 goals and 14 is good. And yeah, to be fair, that is decent for his price. So he's performing, I would say, at about his price tag. He's just not a player who I feel is clinical. I don't think he really he doesn't massively take chances. He's very unselfish. He brings other people into play. He works the channels. Villa have got a lot of other good attacking players. For me, I'm not seriously considering him. I much prefer Wilson and Tony. They stay central. They're the focal point of the attack. They're on pens. Everything is about pointing towards them. And I think they're really good. Gabriel Jesus, I didn't know that he was 8 million. That's the first time I've seen that. Richarlison obviously is a non-pick at 8.5 million. Yeah, just I'm not going to go there. Gabriel Jesus at 8 million is definitely interesting. I think they've got a really nice run of early fixtures. That was Anthony in the chat flagging that one up. I think that's definitely tempting for me. He's one. So there's those two. And then I think Jesus. And yeah, you've also mentioned Havertz. He's another one that I feel like if Chelsea don't bring in many attacking players, I really like Havertz. I know he's frustrated in the past. I mean, that is pretty appalling when you put that next to Ollie Watkins, to be fair. I just think Kai Havertz is the sort of player who I think could score 15 to 20 goals. But again, can you make a case for him when Ollie Watkins has got a better record? Maybe not. Maybe I'm being a bit blinded by the fact he plays for a big club. Danny Ings, no. As much as I want to say that Southampton going to do well, that is an appalling run of fixtures, and I just really don't fancy them. Jimenez, not the same player he used to be. Decent run of fixtures. Wolves had a poor end to the last season, and I just don't fancy teams who have a bad end to last season to pick it up. Brighton forwards, I know some people talk about Undaf as an option. I think you got Welbeck, you got Mopai. They're going to share minutes. Potter is happy to rotate. Not going there. Wood, no. Edouard, Iheanacho, not first choice enough. I think Calvert-Lewin's too expensive at 8 million. They've got that nice run of fixtures. I've got Anthony Gordon just placeholding that 5.5 at the moment. That is a nice run of fixtures, but again, I just think they're a poor team, and Calvert-Lewin didn't have a great return from injury. Werner, Firmino, Mateta, Benteke, none of these guys play enough. I think Ketty is overpriced. Bamford, again, he's another one. I put him in the Tony Wilson. I like those sorts of forwards who just play, they're nailed, they score goals. Great run of fixtures. He's one who I would consider. Jesse Marsh seemed to prioritise defence is the only thing, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. I don't know if Andy's still around, but Andy Martin, but interesting to see what he thinks Leeds will do. Solanke at 6. I don't think he scored a lot of goals. I just don't think he's Premier League class. I think he'll score 10 goals this season, but that might be it. Broja, if he gets a loan move. Mitrovic at 6.5. Wolves, I do like Mitrovic. It's not a terrible run of first fixtures either once he gets past Liverpool. He's an option. I think basically looking at this, I mean, obviously Haaland is one you could consider. So I think for me, I'm basically between Awoniyi, he's got an outstanding record, very good player. So I'm between Awoniyi, Mitro, Awoniyi, Mitro, Bamford, Jesus, and these two. Those are the only 6 forwards I think I'm seriously considering. Good to see Brian Mbeumo representing as well up there. Never buying him again. Okay, so I'm pretty happy. FF Thinker, Sean, I didn't realise that was you. That's you're saying KDB Son double up. Yeah, I don't hate that, to be honest. Again, I didn't catch all of the Planet FPL earlier, but they had a chat. Suj thought that KDB would outscore Haaland, which is interesting. I do think when you think about the fact that KDB gets, everyone's like, oh, Haaland's going to score loads of goals. If we think that KDB is going to be feeding that, Haaland gets 4 points for a goal. KDB gets 3 for the assist. Obviously, KDB gets the extra clean sheet points. He gets the extra goal points. I think it's close between those two. And I personally think, I don't think Haaland, I expect him to start around 30 games this season, if I had to guess, in the league. So do you want he could easily score 30 goals, is the thing to say with that. But early doors, does Pep ease him in? That's not a difficult fixture on, is it? Champions League starts in August. Bournemouth at home, Palace at home. I mean, does he want to give someone else some minutes there? Does he want to get Alvarez on the pitch? Does he want to play with a different type of a system? Like, he doesn't need to. They've got a midweek game there against Nottingham Forest. And there's, like I said, there's Champions League around as well because it's starting early. I just think he doesn't need to get Haaland out there. You could argue the same about KDB, but KDB is seems to be the player who will happily give 62, happily pull him off early, and he'll just tick away at the points. I do think that's a decent option, KDB Son double up. Wouldn't be against it. And I personally think KDB's a better starting pick than Haaland. I know that's a bit controversial. I don't think he's going to outscore him over the season necessarily, but I think I'd probably rather go for KDB as a starting pick. But like I say, I quite like that City triple up at the back. Interesting. Is there any other interesting picks that you guys feel like I haven't mentioned? I obviously haven't been through the price list fully. I think Ramsdale at 5 is good. I think Tierney at 5 is also... He's a potential pick. I mean, again, I'd be very happy to start him, certainly in 7 of those 8. And even for that Man United away game, we don't know how they're going to start, but I think he's a really interesting pick at 5 million there. He's one who, if I wanted to free up a bit of budget, I would definitely strongly consider. Obviously, Saka looks like a pick. Someone mentioned Martinelli. I'm not keen on Martinelli just because I think they've got Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Pepe, sort of, and then Vieira. And those guys are really competing for just a few slots. So Jesus, I imagine, is going to be pretty nailed. Saka's going to be pretty nailed. I think Odegaard's an important player for them. I think he's pretty nailed. So, yeah, that's 3 out of sort of 4 slots, maybe 5 slots. I think that Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Vieira are essentially competing for 2 or 3. Josh is saying, I'll come back to all the comments. I'll make sure I get to all of them. Josh is saying Saliba. I'm going to go from club by club now to sort of maybe finish off. I just wouldn't go for Saliba when you've got Ben White at 4.5 and Tomiyasu. When Tomiyasu plays, Arsenal's defence is so much better. They keep a lot of clean sheets. He gets forward well. He's an aggressive player. Like, he gets on the end of balls. I really like Tomiyasu as a 4.5. I'd just rather go for the safer pick. And I think Tomiyasu is a safer pick. He's so much better than Cedric. And hopefully he's fit now. Yeah. So that's Arsenal. Villa, Matty Cash at 5 million, but again, I think I'd rather start with Kieran Tierney than them, so I don't think I'll be starting with a Villa. They were just quite inconsistent, weren't they, last season? I'm not convinced on Villa as I think, they're probably a watching brief for me. They've got a nice few fixtures first, but then a horrible 3 there in 5 to 7. I just feel like happy to watch and wait on that. Watkins, I think, is a viable pick if you fancy him. I'll go back to alphabetical, but Darren's asking about Newcastle, so I'll have a look at that. I think Pope I was just looking, I was like, oh my goodness, Newcastle goalies scored so much between them last season. That's insane. But obviously Pope was at Burnley. I think Pope's a really good 5.0 option. For me, in that 5.0 slot, it's between Pope, Ramsdale, and Mendy, and I think they're all going to be pretty close. Given Newcastle's decent run, you'd expect they'd be pushing towards clean sheets in... Well, I think with Pope, you get clean sheets, but you get saves. So I think he's a really good option. I think I'd marginally favour him as the 5.0 goalkeeper over Mendy and over Ramsdale. I just think he's textbook perfect fantasy asset. And Howe's got them really solid. And in terms of other Newcastle, they've got kind fixtures. Trippier at 5 I think is another player who I will seriously consider. What did he do last season? He hardly played, but he got 2 goals in 429 minutes. That's excellent. And they've got a pretty tight defence. So I think Trippier is one that I'll seriously consider. He's obviously nailed to play. Don't really fancy their midfielders at all. And Callum Wilson, I think, is obviously looking like he's likely to be in my team. And also someone's mentioned about Pedro Neto. My thoughts on Pedro Neto, Lee. Again, so they've got Jimenez and Fabio Silva. You would think that one of those guys is going to play every game. So that's one spot gone. They've then got Hwang, Podence, Neto, Chiquinho. Again, you'd imagine that Adama's going to go. Gibbs White, you don't think he's going to get many minutes, I would suspect. But if they stick with the same sort of a system, then you've basically got Hwang, Podence, Neto and Chiquinho competing for spots. And I don't like the Neto pick. I've got to say, it's not to say he's going to do badly. Obviously, they've got a decent start in terms of fixtures there. But Leeds away could be good, but they were fairly tight under Marsh. Fulham at home I really like as a good fixture. Tottenham away is very difficult. Newcastle at home I think is a fairly difficult fixture. They'll be pretty tight. And then he's got 2 good ones, followed by 2 horrendous ones. I just think, let's look back at him this last season. 1 goal, 1 assist in 459. Obviously they really eased him in. I know there's been a lot of hype for him, but I just think there's too much competition. I still think they'll be careful with him. We don't know really what he's looking like. He wasn't like sensational coming back from injury or anything like that. I just think don't bother. Like, I'd rather go for someone like Anthony Gordon, who's got cracking fixtures, like good fixtures, 4 out of 5. He's an easy bench if you want to, just like Neto is. But he's got a decent run. He's now their talisman. Like Calvert-Lewin's obviously the main man up front, but they were relying on Anthony Gordon for creativity. He's the fans' favourite. He'll get stuck in. I think he did really well last season. 4 goals, 3 assists isn't like an incredible return, to be fair, but he could have got more, and I'm sure that Lampard is going to be pushing him to increase his goals tally, get in the box, score goals, create, be their main man, and step up with Richarlison gone. My impression as well is like Gordon plays left, and Richarlison tends to drift left. I think there's going to be space for him to operate in, and I think he's going to do really, really well. Everton, I do think, will struggle though. Let's just go back to in order. I'll just rattle through and then we'll finish off. Not really interested in any Bournemouth players. I think they're going to have a terrible season, sadly. I wish they wouldn't. Zamora, why would you pick these guys at 4.5? There's way better options elsewhere. I think Billing's so frustrating to own. Anthony at 5.5 might be a consideration at some point. They've got bad fixtures, not going there. Let's see if there's anything interesting at Brentford. No. is the answer there. Wissa could be an option at some point, but again, he's just not nailed enough to start. Some talk of them buying Keane Lewis Potter. That would be an interesting one. If they bring him in from Hull, a player who scored a lot of goals in the Championship, could be a good option. And there was someone else who Brentford are signing as well, who I thought, that's a good signing, but I can't think who it was. Brighton, I really like Dunk as a 4.5 option. I think he's good, but like I think I said their fixtures are medium. I would say like those first three I don't really fancy too much, and then a good little run there. They're just not a good fantasy football team, are they? Sadly. Undaf obviously had a great season last season. I expect we'll see if he stays and doesn't go on loan. People like Mitoma, Sarmiento, these are sort of relatively unknown assets, but who have got a lot of ability, and I expect we'll see minutes for them coming into the team. Caicedo, again, he's not going to be massive, but at 5 million could be okay. This guy Kozlowski could play a bit. He's very highly rated. He's a teenager, but he's really highly rated at 4.5, but we'll just have to see that one. Chelsea, obviously, we talked about the four at the back. We talked about Mendy already. Let's have a look at the price of the other players. I mean, yeah, I think rather than 5 million in Chalobah, I'd rather just spend the extra million and go for Chilwell, go for James. I don't, personally, Mount's okay option at 8. These guys, Ziyech and Pulisic, if they can nail a spot in the team, they could be really good assets, but it's a watching brief for those. Like I already said about Breuer on loan. Palace, let's see if there's anything interesting here. Again, the 4.5s, I just feel like better options elsewhere. Zaha at 7, he's definitely one I would think about. He has got a horrible starting set of fixtures. So I won't be buying him to begin with, but he's definitely one that I'll be interested in down the line. And yeah, if this guy Ebioe, again, Planet FPL, we're talking about this guy saying he's a good, exciting young player, but I don't think he's going to get loads of minutes, especially because Michael Elise didn't get tons of minutes under Vieira last season. Everton not interested in the defence at all. Yeah, for me it's basically Gordon or no one out of that bunch. I'm going to probably finish off soon. If anyone has any more questions in the next few minutes or wants to post a draft or anything, I'm happy to help go over that. Otherwise, we'll finish off in a few minutes. Fulham, not interested in their defence at all. I think they're going to struggle a lot again. I don't feel like, I've already said I think Harry Wilson, I'm not convinced he's Premier League quality. I don't think he's got the pace. And Mitrovic, I think, is the only one I consider there. Just seeing if there's any enticing options anywhere. What's there? You want to make me want something, guys. Christensen could turn out to be good. Harrison at 6 could be okay, especially if he's got that lovely fixture run. He could step up. He is someone who I would consider, but I'm not excited about him. Aronson at 5.5 is another one I'd consider. Sort of would like to see where he fits into the system before I buy him. Bamford I would also consider. Leicester City, let's see what we've got here. James Justin's 4.5. I think that's quite a nice one. Yeah, I don't dislike James Justin as an option, but again, I just think there's too much value in those higher value defenders. I think there's just two good people who can keep clean sheets. In midfield, I think Maddison at 8 million is the right price for him. I think he's a good option. I like him a lot as a player. I think he's a good fantasy asset. He got 12 goals, 11 assists last season, which is amazing. I think he's really good. Barnes could come into thinking, but again, I want to see where he's at the start of the season. Not going to go anywhere near the forwards, I don't think. Although I think Vardy's a great pick if you want to go there. As always, underrated. Liverpool we've talked about. I think Alisson's a good pick, but for me, I'm between the fullbacks, Diaz and Salah, and I'm leaning towards the fullbacks and Salah. Man City would be nice to have a closer look at. So as we've got Laporte and Diaz at the same price, I think depending on what happens with Cucurella, I think Walker and Cucurella, both 5 million options, could be good. Would definitely ones to keep an eye on. I think definitely could be decent. Sterling at 10. Again, I know he's probably going to Chelsea. Even if he did go to Chelsea, I just think I would want to wait and see how he fits. Foden at 8, I'm really interested in. If Mahrez can nail down a spot, I think he's fantastic value at 8. Grealish at 7. Someone earlier mentioned him. I think I want to wait and see. A lot of people are very down on Grealish. I think he had a season of settling in, massively different role in a massively different team. I think he's an outstanding player. I think he'll come good. It's just how many minutes he gets. Lavia is another one who could be a 4.5 starter at Southampton when he goes there, assuming that all goes through. And if somehow Haaland got injured, which he does get injured, and Alvarez started at 6.5, he could be great down the line, but not going to get too excited about that for now. Man United. Nah. The only one, Sancho's one I'll keep an eye on at 7.5. Rashford also will keep an eye on at 6.5. The one, Fernandes, I think a few people have got cottoned onto this now. I sort of thought about it on my stream the other day when I first talked about the price reveals. I realised, oh yeah, like if Ronaldo leaves, he's going to be great because he'll be on set pieces, he'll be on penalties. I'm not going to buy him to begin with, but I definitely think that if Ronaldo goes, he will be a player that we definitely want to have in our teams at some point down the line. Ronaldo and Martial, no. Talked about Newcastle, so skip them. And Josh mentioned about Brennan Johnson. So he's not a forward that I mentioned as one on my possible list. He's a player I love watching. He's so exciting to watch. What have we got here? So defenders like that, whatever. I'm not interested in those. Joe Lolly didn't play loads last season, but he has historically been a good player who produces results. And Yates also is another player who gets goals. Just can't get excited about it. I do think Brennan Johnson is an interesting one. I think with those fixtures, Newcastle away, West Ham home, Everton away, Tottenham home, Man City away, I think it's just like, let's just wait and see for me. There's no need to jump in. Same with, I said I was considering Awoniyi. I think let's just wait and see. I'm happy to just hold off on those guys. With those fixtures, what's the point in jumping early? I think he will be a good option at some point during the season. Like I say, I think Steve Cooper's going to get the best out of them. Saints. Fan team had Bazunu at 4. I was hoping we might get that, but it was a long shot. Same old story with the 4.5s, better options elsewhere. Ward-Prowse 6.5 will tick along over the season. I think Stuart Armstrong's probably the best 5 million midfielder I've seen if he can get a spot in the team. But again, I'm not really too interested. I'm not really interested, sadly, in any of those. Let's see what we've got. Spurs. I think Lloris is a good pick at 5.5. But again, you've got Doherty at 5. You've got Perisic at 5.5. What have we got for the other defenders here? So they're like 5. Yeah, the ones that are playing are going to be 5. So not going to go. I think Kulusevski is a nice pick at 8. And that is all I would consider there, as well as obviously Son I talked about. I don't fancy Kane to begin with. This is the thing, like I think as I go through these lists, there's probably only like 20, maybe at most 30 players I'm even considering. So that's where I feel like they've failed a bit in the pricing, because they're not bringing in players that should be interesting. I think Cresswell at 5 will be one that quite a lot of people skip over. 153 points in 2021. I'm going to skip over him too. But he's one who could do well, and he does tick along with points quite well. He's past his best, I think it's fair to say. He obviously got sent off a couple times in Europa League. I do think he's becoming more of a liability for them, but they haven't got a better player for now in that slot. Not really too interested in West Ham defence. Jared Bowen, I think he's one actually who I'd seriously consider personally. I think that record of 12 goals, 17 assists, he's on set pieces. He's their talisman now. I think Jared Bowen is a really excellent pick. I know some people have been disappointed at his price, but I think he could easily be more than that. And I think he's one who I will seriously consider as well. And Wolves-wise, I think I've said I don't really fancy any of them. I don't think I'll be going there. Again, people excited about Aït-Nouri. I just think go for the boring option. Go for Tomiyasu, 4.5. He's going to play, and if he's fit, and I think he'll outscore him. So just one last look to the chat then. So Josh was saying with Johnson, I was thinking between game week 6 and 12. Yeah, he does have a good run there, but I think let's just wait and see how he goes, and let's see how Forest go. And Matt Woolley, this may be an unpopular opinion, thinking 2 rotating home and away 4.5 keepers this year may work well. Someone said up here really early on about rotating goalkeepers. I feel like it was maybe Forest and Brentford. Yes, Richard Ward, Brentford and Nottingham Forest. I just don't feel too excited about a Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. Is probably the bottom line on that one. Have you got anything specific in mind, Matt? If you're still here, I mean that's a decent fixture run. I just think rotating goalkeepers rarely works out. If you look at someone like Edison, last season 100, so pretty consistently there. You're looking at an average somewhere around, let's say 155. Let's say that's an outlier that season, not so good. But basically 155, 160 looks like a pretty reliable figure for that slot. So let's have a look. So 155 divided by 38 is 4 points a game. I think, rotating goalkeepers, rubbish goalkeepers, I don't know. I just think go for a really good keeper and go. The only thing about Edison, the downside with Edison, he doesn't get saves. He hasn't really got that up his sleeve, whereas Alisson does. Alisson scored more points, but there's better options at Liverpool, whereas I think Edison's a safe slot into the Man City team who might change things up. So that's my thoughts there. I'll probably go, I see myself going, I don't know whether I'll go for a 4.55 or 5.5. I don't see it as a priority position. So the way I sort of play it would be, I think I want to really, like I said, push my money into the defence. I want to pick the strikers who I think are best and a premium mid. And then the goalkeepers in the mids I can sort of rotate about. So I'm quite happy personally to say, right, actually, if with this draft, so I've got 0.5 in the bank. If I went down to Raya at 4.5, and that allowed me so that adds another 1.5 to my budget, that's going to allow me to do, for instance, Rafinha to Bowen, and if I don't think Rafinha's going to play. So I'd be very happy to do that sort of trade-off where it's like, right, I'm happy to have Raya, a little drop-off there. Raya was around 4 points a game last season anyway. I might go towards Raya, actually, I'm not sure. And then upgrade a Rafinha type player into an 8.5. That would work quite well for me. Gary, how many of this 15 do you think will be in your 15 for game week 1? So, I would say, if I had to guess, I think I'll keep those 3 strikers. I feel like, yep, I have the 3 strikers. I think I have Salah, 4. Perisic 5, Cancelo 6, Trent 7, Robertson 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ward 9. I think if I go for Raya, let's say, I think 9, basically. I think the slots that are up for grabs, would be that. I'm just going to say that's a 4.5. I think I will certainly have a 4.5. I'm either going 5-4-1 or probably much more likely 5-3-2. I'm happy to... Saka's a 8 million placeholder. It might not be Saka, but I think that will be an 8 million mid. Gord, I think probably... I would be expecting that those players there on the screen will be in my game week 1 side. So that's 5, 10. And in effect, that means my working out now is that I've got 32.5 million on 5 slots. In fact, I'm gonna, you get to see how terrible I am at using the internet by doing this thing. That's not what I want to do. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I want to screenshot it and see that I've got 32.5 million in the bank. I'm going to use a shortcut. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So I'm going to screenshot that because basically 32.5 for 5 slots is what I need to think about. So obviously the whole season I'm going to be on YouTube. So if I come in and sometimes I'm just going to do some thinking and probably just sit here without saying much, but 32.5 for 5 slots. How could we play that? That'll be something I might think about next time out. But for now, let's say I'll go for Raya. let's say I go for a 6 million. That could be Diaz, it could be James. I'm quite happy to go with that. And then 22 between 3, of which 2 need to be definite starters. I could go for 2 8s, which would put me at 16. And then that would give me 6 million. That seems about right, I think. So for now, I'm just going to pop these guys in there. That could be an 8. That could be Foden. It could be, there's options. I think I'm happy to say that. Thoughts on Wissa, says Adam. He scored 10 goals in Liga and he scored 7 last season. It would be great if he was nailed, as he's very dangerous. If Neto is, as he's very dangerous. If Neto is rotated just as much, I'd back him to score more. As in, I think you're saying there, Adam, that you would back Wissa to outscore Neto, and I would agree with you. I think Wissa is a really good player. He's shown that he's one of those players who just got a nose for goal. Like I said, they might be buying Keane Lewis Potter. I'm really frustrated that I can't remember who the other player they're signing is, but it's a really good one. And in my head, it's an attacking player. And I can't think who it is. If they go into the obviously they've lost Eriksen, but if they go into the season with Mbomo, Tony and Wissa as their front 3, I think Wissa would be the outstanding 5.5. But like I said, probably by Lewis Potter, he'd probably come in as a 5.5. He could be really good. I think I'm just going to go with Tony and see what happens. I'm happy to wait on someone like Wissa. Like I say, Gordon is so nailed. I'd just rather pick nail players. Michael Hills, yes. 4 nows, slept on for 5.5. I missed him when I was going through the teams. I think he's a great 5.5 option. FPL Richie was talking about who do you think is the budget gem at that sort of price tag. I said 4 nows. I think 4 nows is a really, really, really good option at 5.5. I agree. I just missed him. So he could be 4 nows. I do think that the only thing with 4 nows is he will miss games. So because again, if we go to West Ham, they've got Antonio's their only striker. He's going to play. Bowen is their main man. He plays every game. They've then got sort of the Benrahma, Fornals, Vlasic. Doesn't play very much, and arguably Lanzini, I suppose, could. I just think Fornals will probably play 2 out of 3. I don't really want that for 5.5. If you look at my team setup here, I've got a 5, and then my 3 is this Saka, Rafinha, could be Foden, and Salah, and then Tony and Wilson. So I think basically what I like about that is Wilson nailed, Tony nailed, Saka nailed. The Rafinha Foden may not be. Salah nailed, close to. Perisic, slight rotation risk. Diaz, pretty much nailed. Cancelo, pretty much nailed. Nailed. So I've got a slight question mark, I would say, over a few players. And probably a big question mark would be if I went for like a Foden, Rafinha type. Basically, I would say probably like 1 week out of 2, maybe. I might be needing this sub, the 5.5. I want a good option there who's going to be playing from the start. They're mostly going to get 2s, but I want players who could get points. And I think Gordon is a player who will just drip points. It might be 2, 2, 2, 5, 2, 7, 2, 2. But that's all good. And like if you've got Greenwood would be my 3rd sub. Someone like Andreas is then your guy who's just going to go 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You rarely need that 2nd sub, but I do want a decent 1st sub early doors in case, let's say, okay, I've got Perisic wrong and Sessegnon is playing more, or let's say Pep's decided that Stones and Laporte is his best option. I just don't want to have to panic if someone like Fornals is playing 1 in 2. I've then got 2 problems to fix. I'd rather go with players that I think I won't need to fix and that I can improve from a place of them not being an issue, but just not being an optimal pick. I think in that starting team, you want players who are going to play. They might not be the best picks, but they're not going to be problem picks, if you know what I mean. Whereas I think someone like Haaland could become a problem pick, to be honest with you. He probably won't, but he could. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. Matt Woolley, rotating keepers burnt me before. Yeah, me too. Often got less points for playing on the bench. And again, Pope, Raya, 4 points a game. I just think they're good options. Raya's got good fixtures. He picks up a lot of save points. It's what you want, right? And obviously that points total was skewed by the fact he didn't play as many minutes when he was injured, but they're so much better with him. And I think he's a really strong option. I would lean that I probably would go there. It's just if I decide to go for City instead. Luis Sinisterra to Leeds. That's the Rafinha replacement sorted. Yeah, I'm in a Sky group chat and they were bigging up Sinisterra. Has that happened? Because they were bigging him up. But again, he's the sort of player I'm like, I just don't see the need to gamble on him early doors. I've done it in the past with like Nenad Milias and Marabaselli and players that we get excited about. If he bangs, it's no problem. Bring him in after 2 or 3 weeks. But again, I don't want problems. He's a potential problem and I don't want problems. So I wouldn't go for someone like that. Michael, not the best opening fixtures for Hammers, but he starts West Ham regularly. Yep, I think I think he'll probably play like 2 out of 3, like I said. Michael, I like your team as a Chelsea fan. I'd like one of the fullbacks. Yeah, I did address that earlier. I feel like I won't go over that again. I have a rewind back, but I just worry about them playing 4 at the back. But they're on my mind. Sinisterra deal done. Nice. I like that. Leeds are doing really good business this summer. I feel like they've bought some really good players. I'm very impressed, actually. They've surprised me. Alex, my team is Mendy, Trent, Trippier, Cancelo, James. So 4 there. Neto, Saka, Salah, Guimaraes, Haaland, Jesus. Okay, so my thoughts on that, Alex, would be I don't dislike it at all. Like Mendy, good pick. Trent, Trippier, Cancelo, James, all good picks. Neto, I worry about as a starter. I don't think he's a reliable starter. You're going to get points off the bench. I personally wouldn't want him. Guimaraes, I can see you're a Newcastle fan, but I think he's obviously did really well last season, but he did really overperform as well on his XG. And I think he is not a player that I would personally want in my starting lineup. I just don't think his role in the team is to do loads of attacking output. I think he's a good player. Wouldn't want him in my starting team. Haaland, Jesus, I can't argue with, to be fair. I would question though, if you've got Salah, you could captain Salah every week. I think if it were me, well, that's what I'm doing. Go without Haaland, spread the funds, improve Neto and Guimaraes spots. You could bring Haaland down to, say, you're a Newcastle fan, so let's go to Wilson. You save 4 million there, and then you can go Guimaraes, I think he's 6, so Guimaraes to Foden, for instance. There's obviously lots of 8 million mids. And then Neto could go up to a 7.5, or you could go for Rafinha at 7, go for Bowen instead of Guimaraes. That would be how I would personally do it. I would also say if you've got a team that's got Neto in it, I really think you want to be thinking about who your first sub is very carefully. Okay. So I'm going to call it a night there, I think. Like I say, probably what I'll do, it's nice to have a little play, see what I've got. I can't remember if I screenshot my team or not. I'm going to do it because my son has started playing FPL last season and he'll want to see what I've got. But I like the look of that. It looks good. Yes. AD Tour, evening Peter, you're late in the day but you're here, you can always catch up tomorrow. Nice to see you, thanks for tuning in. AD Tour, great team Dave, thanks AD. As Sky players, we know Chelsea struggle without Rudiger when they conceded early against Norwich and blew everyone captaincy. Yes, quite. I think Chelsea, there's a lot of question marks over their defence at the moment. Like, we don't know. And also, they really did start slowly end last season slowly. I think I'm quite happy to wait and see on that defence. I'm also not really sure, there's talk about them buying Ronaldo. I mean, if that's true, it does feel like that's worrying. But at the moment, they've got Thiago Silva, quality but ageing. Obviously, Aspi, we don't know what his contract situation is. They could easily end up with like Thiago, Chalobah, Sarr if they go for a back 3. If it's a back 2, it would probably be Thiago, Chalobah. I mean, I don't fancy that's Premier League quality. I know there's talk of Koundé and other players, but yeah, for me, I'm quite happy to wait and see. But if they are definitely playing 3 at the back, then James isn't going to be one of them, then James and Chilwell are options. And actually, I think I'd marginally favour Chilwell over James for that reason. James is such a good defender. If I was a manager, if I was Tuchel, he showed a willingness to play James at centre-half. I would say go for Chilwell because he can't play centre-back. And if Tuchel's thinking, right, I've got weak defence right now, so I've got Sarr and Thiago Silva, I'm going to put James in as my super solid third centre-back option. He's just not a 6 million option at centre-back. So I think I'd I'd probably go for Chilwell over James if I was picking one. Michael saying we're going to play 4-3-3. There you go. That's what we're here. That's what the word seems to be. So in that case, James could end up playing in midfield potentially, but he's much more likely to just be right back in a flat 4. So I want to see how that goes. If he's like a Trent, then that's great. But if he's actually more defensive duties, then yeah. Adam, is it okay to start with 2 Arsenal, 2 Liverpool because you're unsure of the third you want to treble with? Oh, excuse me. I'm not fully understanding what you're saying there, Adam, I don't think. But yeah, I think start with whoever you want. 2 Arsenal, 2 Liverpool's all good. I think there's so much value in Liverpool, though. I would say just pick a third and then you can always change them down the line. I usually try and roll my transfer game week 2 so that in game week 3 I could do a double change if I want to. I think there's so much value in Liverpool. I would personally go for the third one there. And Alex, yeah, we're all going to change our teams a lot before game week 1. I'm going to try probably, where are we at now? 6th of July. I think I'm probably going to try and sit back for a week or 2, see what transfers happen, just rest up. What I'm going to do quickly before I log off, so like, you know, guys, feel free to go. The whole point is that I'm going to be doing every second of the season on here, so I'm going to be here loads, but I'm going to make just a little watch list of the players that I am considering, seriously considering. So I'm just going to bundle that together real quick so that next time I come on, I've got my list ready to go. I don't think there was anyone at Villa. I've sort of done this, so you know, just you can just leave if you want to, but I will keep chatting away as I do it. But this is how I do it. I mean, the whole point of this is not all of it's going to be super interesting, but I'm committed to showing you how I play FPL and to logging every hour, every second. Usually, I mean, I feel like, to be honest, I'm quite addicted to fantasy football. And usually what I would be probably doing in these days is like logging on, taking a look, tweaking my team, swapping Rafinha, swapping Saka, doing a bit of sort of back and forth with my players. Don't think there's anyone, Brian. And sort of just, you know, spending a lot of time on it. I'm not going to do that this season, and that's part of the reason is why I'm streaming this. I quite like Mount. I think he's decent at 8. I don't think I'm going to go for him though, but I do think he's a pretty good pick. Is he going to go on my watch list? Yeah, they've got lots of green there. I'm going to pop on my watch list just in case. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. I often think as well, like really, like this bit's about having a play, having some fun, and enjoying, being back in FPL mode again, I suppose. But yeah, there's not much. I don't think there's actually a lot of value in tweaking from here on in. I think you can just enjoy it and see. Nope. Let's see, Leeds. I'm actually going to pop Harrison on my watch list because I like their fixtures. And I'm also going to pop Bamford because I think he's a classic striker. I'm going to put Maddison on. I think he's nailed. I think he's really good. I'm also going to put Vardy on because there's not many strikers and he is one that I would consider. Liverpool. We'll go for Trent. We'll go for Robbo. Really, there's only 4 I'm thinking about at Liverpool. Oh, look at that history. Beast. And Luis Diaz. What did he get last season? 4 goals, 3 assists. Anthony Gordon levels. But quality. Someone said his XG matched up with Sadio Mane's. So that's certainly a good indication that he's a good player, which we already knew. I don't think I'm going to start with Mahrez or Grealish, so I'm just going to pop Foden on because Pep seems to really like Foden. I'm not putting Haaland on because I just don't think I'm going to go there. I'm not going to go for Man United. Newcastle, I've got Pope. I've got Trippier as a good option. And Wilson. Forest, no, don't like their fixtures. Johnny into 4. Have you talked about Neto on stream? I have, Johnny. I have to rewind, but the long story short is I don't think he's a very good option. Because why do I think he's not a very good option? I think that he will certainly be rotated. They've got 4 players for 2 slots. He had a slow return from injury, in my opinion. I think they'll manage him. I think Wolves could be in a bit of disarray. I am going to say that I am definitely not going to pick. I'm definitely not going to pick Neto. I think, like I was saying, Anthony Gordon I think is a better option. He's nailed to play. I don't want a problem position. I don't want a player who's going to be a problem, and he could become a problem. So I am not going to go for Neto. It's not to say that I'm not saying he definitely won't do well, because he could do well. But I don't want players who could do well but could be a sub issue. I just don't think it's worth the risk early doors. And I'm not going to go for any Wolves players. I think there was trouble there last season. Like, there was some talk of some fallout between the manager and the players. I just don't think so. That I might have missed 1 or 2 on my watch list, but that's my watch list. Edison, Pope, Raya. I'm going to put Mendy on there as well. And I'm going to put Ramsdale on there. Gary, you're going to need tips on 24-hour stream. I'm going to finish soon. This is I'm enjoying it though. It's my first look at the at the teams for the season, so I'm probably not going to come on for a little while. So I'm just enjoying it. Also, when I play football, 8:30 p.m. till 10 p.m, I can never get to sleep after football anyway. So I'm usually up till like 1 a.m. on this night anyway. So those are my goalies that I've got there: Edison, Ramsdale, Mendy, Pope, Raya. Pretty sure it'll be one of those 5. Very short list of defenders there, but Trent, Cancelo, Robertson, Diaz, Tierney, Chilwell, Trippier, Perisic. Again, I think it's going to be 5 from that 8. Tomiyasu maybe, but I think Tierney offers more attacking potential. Interesting thing to note as well, Tierney gets much more attacking returns when Tomiyasu plays, because Tomiyasu is a more defensive fullback and it allows Tierney to bomb on. So if Tomiyasu's fit, Tierney becomes a better option. So I think it will be 5 from those 8. Midfield is where I think I've got the most dilemmas. Obviously I haven't shortlisted any 4.5s. We'll see what happens there. But what's that? There's 2 premiums there, but basically 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 mids that I think I'm seriously looking at. Probably Mount and Maddison less serious. And then up top I've got Tony, Vardy, Jesus, Wilson, Bamford. And I think basically those are the only players as of today that I'm considering. So 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23, 25, 30 players that I'm considering. I'm not saying that others won't join that list and some of these might drop off, but I would be surprised if more than 5 names were added to that list. And probably 1 or 2 might drop off. But James, I'm drinking a Northern Monk hazy pale ale. It's nice, and I got it from the supermarket as a nice supermarket option. We've got a really nice beer shop around the corner from us. Live in Brighton, so I feel like quite spoilt for like fancy beer and coffee and stuff. And they've got like a nice tap thing where you get a litre of beer, but this is a nice sort of small can, affordable, very nice. Drinking it very slowly though because I'm talking so much, but it's nice. Alex, I addressed Perisic earlier, so do rewind the stream if you get a chance. I talked about that very early on in the stream. I think I'm not worried about rotation too much. Peter Carter, how would you plan to get to Vardy from that side? Been a defender down to a 4.5, lose the 8 million mid. These are the sort of questions that are really good, because I think this is what pre-season tinkering is about. It's like changing your shape up, changing your team up, trying to work out like, how could I get there? So Vardy, so let's say that's Wilson to Vardy. I'm only 0.5 off straight away there. I would look at this team. So Rafinha's a bit of a freak in terms of, when I look at my watch list, he's a freak in terms of, he's not on my watch list for one thing. Make that 31 players on my watch list. but he's a bit of a freak in terms of when you look at the pricing here, he really stands alone. I know some people really pick their team on price point. I'm not too bothered. Like, I can easily go down to a Harrison or a slightly disgusting Fornals or Gordon. But yeah, I would probably look at softening up Diaz, I think, and looking to turn Diaz into a Tierney or a Trippier. Probably, let's say Tierney. I think he's a safer pick. I like Arsenal's defence. I think it's a bit underrated. And I'm there. So I can do... Yeah, I need to figure out how that you can see it all. I don't really know how to do that. I'm on a laptop here at the moment, and it's quite a small screen, but probably in time I might use my bigger computer, I think, but not at the moment. So that's basically where I'm at. It's easily done. So I think that's quite tasty, actually. Like, yeah, his fixtures are decent enough. I just think Wilson is just, as long as he's not injured, which is a bit of an if, I just think those two are just boring picks that you can just leave. They'll tick away. They'll get 15 goals. They'll get a handful. Look, what did Tony get last season? 12 goals, 5 assists. And they really, end of the season, they were really pointing the ball towards him a lot more. Wilson didn't play loads, but he got 8 goals. And he did really well under Eddie Howe. Obviously, I've watched a lot of Bournemouth under Eddie Howe through League One, Championship, Premier League, all that period. Wilson came in the Championship. He was awesome under Howe. Howe knows how to use him. Wilson loves him. I just think, love those two picks, basically. As boring. I don't really want to be touching the striker slots. I want to be using my transfers to jump onto the best midfielder who looks like a really good option. But like I say, I'll try and roll early doors. Isn't Vardy 100 years old? He's actually 103, James. Do you think I should go Colback or Andreas for my 4.5 mid? Honestly, Alex, I would say at this point, don't worry about it. Like, a 4.5 mid will emerge. They're going to be your second, hopefully, they're going to be your second sub, even if they're your first sub. I think just wait and see. We'll see what happens in pre-season. If Andreas goes to Fulham, if he's playing in a more advanced role, he looks like he'll be a really good pick. Colback, I don't think is particularly nailed, but I wouldn't worry. Press control and mouse wheel out. Thing is, if I zoom out, right, this happens. Just resizes it to like. So I'll work it out, but like I said, I probably will use. I've got a whopping. I don't know even how much of me you can see because I haven't got a picture of that. I've got a whopping great big thing. You know what I mean? I've got a whopping great computer. I'll probably use my screen for that at some point. Maybe, I don't know. I'm going to finish off in a second. Is there anything else that I haven't addressed? Adam, do you think they underpriced Alvarez at 6.5 if Haaland is injured? He looks very good. I mean, arguably, yes. I would like to have Alvarez. If Haaland gets injured, he's in the team, he's going to be a great pick. That's definitely one who's like on my radar. No Reece on shortlist. The reason, James, that I've got no Reece on shortlist is just because I think there's a chance if they play 4 at the back. I'm not particularly interested in Chilwell or James to start with until I see how they're playing. And it sounds like they're probably playing 4 at the back, so I'm happy to wait on Chelsea defence probably. If they do play 3 at the back, I'd still want to see, unless they'd signed a couple of really top draw centre-backs, I'd want to see that Reece James is not playing centre-back. So although I'd marginally favour Reece James over Chilwell's nailed to play left wing back if they're playing 5 at the back because he can't play centre-half. You've talked about it, but can I ask you why you like the 1 premium draft and the advantage it has to 2/3? Yeah, sure. So basically, the reason, Johnny, that I'm doing that, Salah is, when you look at those first 9 fixtures, I would be happy to captain him. Let's say first 7 fixtures. I would be happy to captain him in every single one of those 7 fixtures. The one that I would have some question mark over would be Man United game week 3. But I would not hesitate to do it unless they've looked incredible first 2 games. What have United got first 2? They've got Brentford away. They've got Brighton at home. Liverpool will be a different level of challenge to that. So I wouldn't hesitate to captain Salah. What other options have we got there? If I went Gabriel Jesus at Bournemouth, I think that could be nice. I don't think I'm going to go Vardy, so I won't go for that. I don't think I've got the guts to captain Tony against Fulham, but I wouldn't say that he won't score there. It's not a very appealing set of fixtures that game week in general. I've got Spurs would be my pick if I had Son, probably. But I'd be happy to captain Salah, the Monday night game at Liverpool. And yeah, I just think that looks good. And maybe Jesus could be more of a factor. Could go 0.5 more, go Wilson to Jesus. That's one option. Like, Wilson's got 2 out of the first 5. He's got very difficult games. There's probably an argument to say, well, forget Wilson for the first draft. Go for Gabriel Jesus, who's got a lovely clear run first 5 games. And you could captain him game week 3 at Bournemouth. In fact, I've talked myself into it. I'm going to pop Jesus into my first draft. And just for the sake of balance, I don't really want to double up on an attacking team. I really like Spurs' fixtures. I think he's decent value. I'm going to go Kulusevski there, just for that 8 million placeholder. I'm also very interested in Phil Foden. And in fact, like, Rafinha could easily be Phil Foden. And I could still go Tien to Diaz. And I could go Rafinha to Foden. That works really, really well. So yeah, sorry, Johnny, I was talking about one premium. Basically, Salah, I think, is captainable. And I think you get the real value from your premiums is when they get captaincy double points. So I'm happy to captain Salah regularly, and then by spreading the funds through the rest of the team, I just think you can get so much more. Like, I'm not going to do it now, but if I did, for instance, go Kulusevski to Son, then I'm having to make huge downgrades elsewhere in my team. I just love that team. I mean, look at that. I'm not trying to be funny, but like, solid goalkeeper. You've got 5 defenders there who are all capable of double-digit hauls and who should regularly get those clean sheets coming in. You've got a nice spread across really good teams. So I really like that. Excellent value, like unbelievable value. They're so underpriced. It's ridiculous. Like, that should be $1 million more. That should be $1 million more. That should be $1 million more. That should be at least $500,000 more. That should be more than $1 million more. Absolute bargain. And then these guys, Jesus, I think I'm happy with Jesus. He is a bit of a gamble. We don't know quite how Arsenal are going to play, how they're going to set up. I do think he's a good player, and I think he's going to be a 15+ goal striker this season, and presumably I think he'll be on pens as well. So yeah, I just think when you spread the funds around, I've got 2 million in the bank as well. It's ridiculous what you can do. I've got 5 amazing defenders. I've got 3 excellent midfielders, really reliable. Kulusevski minutes could be a question, and I've got 2 top strikers. I mean, I could also look at, if I wanted to, go for like Greenwood to Wilson for 3 million. That would give me. I could go for Wilson there, and have a 6 million mid there. Again, it's just like insane value. There's just so much value this season. I think they've made it too easy. But that's why. So yeah, there's an argument to say, right, go Kulusevski to Son. That would give me. I'd need to find 2 million somewhere. If I was going to do that, might downgrade Robertson, but I just think he's such a good pick. He's great value. I just don't like it personally. So that's my thinking. It's not particularly coherent, but that's where I'm at. And James says, on James Chilwell, I think you basically articulated something I couldn't be bothered to think through. Job done as a streamer, I guess. Thanks, James. This is my first proper stream, so thank you. And I won't be calling the video whopping great big thing. The day I do a click where it's like game week 1 stream reaction. I know that's what the thumbnails like that work. I know that, but yeah, maybe when I get to like 10,000 subs, if I ever get there. Salah has a habit of living up to big players, big games performances. Never fear captaining. Exactly. He got a hat-trick at Old Trafford last year. I really wouldn't worry about it. Alex, what formation are you going to play? I'm going to probably go, I think I'm going to go for a 5-3-2. Definitely 5, 100%. That's what I did last season too. Just think that's where all the value is. They're outstanding players. Definitely 5. And the reason I think probably 3-2 is because I think there will be better sub options in midfield than there will be up front. So I really only want one 4.54. Greenwood's going to get 10, 20 points on the season, you'd guess. And his third sub rubbish. So I think like I'm quite happy with these sort of 7 to 8 million strikers as my options. So yeah, probably it'll be 5-3-2, but I'm quite happy. I've got someone like Gordon in my team. You know, let's look at those first fixtures. I don't ideally want to play him, but like that Forest at home one in game week 3, you know, you could make a case that he's a good starter that week. So there, Johnny, what do you think of the 6 mids? I've got to be honest, I haven't had a close look. The only players on my watch list in midfield at that price and under is Harrison, Fornals and Gordon. So I would say those 3, I suppose. 6, let's have a look. 6. This is fun, guys. I'm enjoying it. Let's have a look what we've got here. Martinelli, I just think, again, could be a problem. I like him. He could do really well, but I think, I wouldn't want to start again. Ziyech, Pulisic, Gallagher could all be very good options this season, but I don't want to start there. Wilson, likewise. Rodrigo, likewise. Harrison, I think he's a really good player. Really rate him. You could go for the 2 Newcastle boys, Joelinton, Bruno, Ben Rama. There's just so many players like that, I think, in this 6 million who could just be, there will be 1 or 2 who emerge, and I'm happy to jump on them. Like, if I've got Gordon and 2 million in the bank, that's such an easy first move. Catch the price rises on like a player who's really performing. That would be how I'd do it. So, yeah, I've given you an answer there. I feel like that's probably enough to say Anthony I like as well. Pricing is too easy, but there are a lot of options this season. I think people are too focused on value when they're going to actually have to think who's going to do the most business. I think that's sort of fair. I guess what I really want from pricing is I want as many players in the game as possible, and I don't think they've achieved that, because I think by putting like a few gems at 4.5, like Tomiyasu, I think even Dunk, they rule out, like, why would you pick Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, all these teams that have got full of 4.5 defenders? Like, I just don't understand why you'd go there. And so that's my issue, really. And I think, okay, like, we're all playing with the same price as the same thing, but I don't know, like, the fact you could easily get 2 premiums and still have a strong team is to me, it's a little bit less interesting. All Sports fan Adam, Jota got 15 goals and 7 assists. Still didn't get the same points as Alisson last season. Yeah, interesting. Do you think Diaz can reach those heights? Because Robbo and Alisson ownership will hurt if Diaz fails. I think you've articulated that really well, Adam. I think one thing that we often fall for in fantasy is like sexy points. So Jota is sexy points because he's 15 goals, 7 assists. And, oh yeah, he's scoring goals, he's getting assists. People like Alisson, Robertson, they will just drip those points. And I think we really underrate that. At the end of the day, goals and assists are exciting, but we want players that will drip points. And I think the likes of Alisson and Robbo will. So Diaz, I think, I'd back Diaz for 15 goals, 7 assists personally, which is great for 8 million. But if it means you can't have Salah, Robertson, Trent, and Salah has like another 300-ish point season, and Robertson and Trent both get close to that 200 mark, you could argue that Diaz isn't worth it. I do think that there is an argument, and there's an outside chance I do it. There is an argument to put Salah there down to 8 to Diaz, and then put Son into the midfield and put Haaland or a Man City or De Bruyne or someone into the team. But I don't think I'm going to do that. But I think there is an argument for that. Ryan, got to do this for Sky FF game launch as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it for Sky, but I might. I'm very happy to talk about it. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I might do it. Yeah, one thing that Sky's given me is the appreciation for boring points. That's what Sky's about. James, the defence pricing is gubbed, I admit. Front 6 is as open as it's been for years. Yeah, that's probably fair. Although having said that, I just feel like, again, if you look at that watch list, I've only got 5 forwards on my list. Obviously, there's a couple of other names you could have in there, but I'd like to see them price them a bit lower, because even Tony, who was a great forward option last year, he got 139 points. Like, that's fairly rubbish in the context of the game. They don't have as many avenues to points. I would have loved to have seen them like come a bit lower. I think the two things they could have done with forwards is bring some a bit lower. I think these guys are all about right, but I think there's too many who are too high. So I'd like to see them bring some a bit lower. I also think it would be really interesting if they'd have bought the minimum price for a forward up to 5, because it just forces that decision again of like relative cost. You know, do you want to be like popping in some 5 million subs there? I think that would have been fun. Alas, it's not my game. They do it their way. That's totally fine. Right. I'm going to go now, guys, I think, because it is flipping heck. It's 1:45. I've really enjoyed it. I also really want to say thanks to all of you for chatting. It's made it really enjoyable. I'm going to be doing, I don't know quite when I'm going to stream. Like I said, anytime I'm on the FPL website, my rule is I will be here. So even if it's like I'm going on for 2 minutes to just have a little tweak or whatever it is, I'll be going live and doing it. I won't always tweet about it, but if you subscribe, obviously you'll see it. Oh, my daughter's just woken up upstairs. Hopefully my wife's on it. So yeah, I'm going to go on that note, but I'll make sure I tweet out regular slots. Sorry I can't answer any more questions because I'm going to check on my daughter. But thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, do give it a like. And also if you'd be happy to share on Twitter and tell people that you liked it, that would be really great. But thank you for joining in. I'll probably be live in about a week or two's time, because I don't think I'm going to play with this now for a week or two. But I'll let you know when I'm live. Happy first FPL day. Good luck with your tweaking. I hope you have lots of fun. Don't spend too much time on it. Get outside, enjoy the summer, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks for some more playing around with some new players and more information. Night, guys. Cheers.